Hey, before we start the episode, this is just a reminder this episode does take place before we had changed to a strictly interview format, and as such, there may be references to the other episodes we used to do that don't have anything to do with that. You can disregard that and just enjoy the episode.
The Graphic Histories Podcast.
Hey, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayette, and I'm your host. Thank you once again for tuning in. A big thanks to Ukla the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. Today is another one of our featured interview episodes, so I'm not going to do a lot of intro to this one, just so you can get right into it, because I'm super excited for you to listen to it. Today I'll be talking with Ramón Pérez, Canadian-born creator, artist, worked on Jim Henson's Lost Project, The Tale of Sand, also worked for Marvel with X-Men, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, amazing artist, a really cool guy, and we had a great conversation about a lot of things, about sort of the tailoring of series to Netflix, about creating your own work, about working for the big companies, about the divisions between artists and writers, a lot of really cool stuff, and man, what a cool guy. I had a great conversation. It was super fun, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed doing it. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking here because I'm recorded this in advance, and something may have happened in the last week that I'm unaware of. So if some big news happened, if the world exploded and I'm not talking about it in this podcast, it is because I recorded this early. But I will definitely talk about it when I return. So anyway, without much further ado, let's go into today's episode with Ramón Pérez. Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Oh, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
Are you in your studio?
I am, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I like those gremlins behind you. My lord, those are life size.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I have the stripper one, or the flasher one.
Geez.
Yeah, in the corner.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some Mogwais back there as well. And
oh, shit.
yeah, I have a...
Wicked.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm a big Gremlins fan. You a horror movie guy, or?
I like my horror. I'm more of a sci-fi guy and westerns and that kind of stuff.
Really? Like, I don't meet a lot of people in our relative age group that, are big into westerns. So that's cool.
I mean, they have their eras. Like, I don't think there's been a couple of good westerns maybe in the past 5 years, but it's like a genre that had its era, and it's had a couple of highlights here and there.
I feel like modern ones have gotten, like, what's it, Hostels, the one they did with Christian Bale. That it was like it's like the super violent, like blood soaky.
Oh shit! I've never seen that. What's it called?
Hostels.
Hostels. I have to write that down.
It's a good one. The last one of the last, I don't know, probably 10 years that I really enjoyed was probably either the True Grit remake, which I really liked.
That was really good. Yeah.
And 310 to Yuma, the remake for that was really good too.
That was good too. Yeah. Or I don't know if you've ever seen Bone Tomahawk.
Oh yes, of course. See, I feel like that falls into more of a horror movie.
It's like a mix, you know what I mean?
But it is a happy marriage for sure. I love that movie.
It totally is.
The guy that directed that film, everything he's done has been fantastic.
Yeah, I just watched a few of his other things recently.
Yeah, me too.
And I was like, holy shit. I think it was the last one.
Dragged Across Concrete was the last one.
I just watched, yeah.
And I was like, wow, with Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn, like this is like I wouldn't expect these kind of performances, but man, they killed it.
It was amazing. I loved it. I was like, this is some cool shit happening here.
Yeah, like just super cool crime stuff. Like, I can't remember the guy because he's pretty prolific. The director, he's also a writer. He also wrote one of the new what are those movies with the little puppets? There's like a horror movie franchise. There's been like 20 of them, and they're like little puppet things.
Oh
Puppet Master. Puppet Master.
Oh, like the classic Puppet Master. Okay,
Yeah. He did one of the more recent ones of those. He wrote it. Yeah.
I didn't even know they were still doing those.
That's Tom Lennon from Reno 9/11 is like the main guy in it.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Set up. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, it's quite good. It's called the Littlest Reich, I think, or the last. Yeah, I think it's the Littlest Reich if I'm correct. But
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yeah, well, thanks for joining me, man. This is great to have you on.
Dude. Pleasure.
Sweet. We have a lot of I don't think we never met, I don't believe, but we have a lot of associates for sure.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I find the industry is very tight knit. So if you know one person, you probably know 5 or 10 other people through them. And
for sure. And especially out here, because like the con circuit is fairly small. There's a convention in Halifax. It's the same people generally you'll see at the one in Moncton or the one in here and there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've been to I've never been to DCAF, but I've been to the
East Coast Comic Expo, the one in Moncton.
Is it called the East Coast Comic Con?
The Nick Bradshaw, the one that he's connected with.
Oh yeah, I went to that one the first year he did it in Moncton.
Okay. Yep.
But there was another one in Halifax.
Halcon.
Yeah, Halcon. That was it. Yeah, I did that one I think a couple times. Really loved that one. I mean, they both were great.
Yeah.
I went to the first year that Bradshaw did his, so it was I'm not. Maybe it still is. It was in like a ice rink, I think.
Yep. Yeah. It's I believe it's because I was there too. I don't think I talked to you, but I was setting up selling art there as well.
Oh, okay.
So, but
it's a great community out there.
Yeah, and like what I love about East Coast Comic Expo and DCAF specifically is that they're really comic focused. Yeah. Well, Halcon's like a sci-fi thing that just has some comic stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's comics aren't really, they never seem to be a priority for them, which is fine.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, we were in a little offshoot side room. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the cool people they bring in are usually people that Cal gets that just come in, like hang out at the Strange Adventures booth.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like they had Larry Hama there one year, and I was like, man, like how does nobody understand how cool this guy is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is Larry Hama. Like nobody's there talking to him.
Yeah.
And they've had a pretty cool run of people there. So, but that.
Oh yeah, they have. Yeah.
DCAF's always been really fun. I'm pretty.
Yeah, I'd like to check that out. I've never had the opportunity yet.
Oh really? Oh, you love it.
Yeah.
You must know Cal.
I was talking with somebody about it.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Oh yeah, I know Cal. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Cal or Dave probably would be the ones that would be organizing.
Yeah, I'd have to just talk to them probably. It's like one of those things that you just get busy and you forget when cons are. And
yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
With the current, you're in Montreal, right?
No, I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay. So with the current situation, you must be, having a lot more time on your hands with.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, life hasn't changed too much because of the. I mean, I'm still coming to the studio. I'm here every day. There's a few guys here with me, and but for the most part, as an artist, you're just like, oh, I just got more time on my hands now, so I can just hustle on the work and just enjoy, but with less distraction. I mean, it would be nice because our new studio space has a bit of a front end gallery, and we were hoping to have like all these shows lined up and showcasing different comic book artists and doing different things, and there's really no point in embarking on any of that because everything's closed. You have a trickle of people coming through, right? So but for the most part, I just keep on trucking, drawing, doing a few things here and there.
Awesome. What's the current project?
I'm currently working on Stillwater with Chip. We're just starting the second arc of the book for Skybound, and then I'm actually starting a Kickstarter through the studio raid for one of the guys here, Dax Gordon. He does a webcomic called Forest Folks, so we're launching that in about maybe 10 days, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've talked to Sandy Carruthers a bit as well. And he's kind of got a little bit of a studio set up in Charlottetown.
Okay.
And yeah, Sandstone is his outfit. But the idea, like, I really love the concept that you guys have going there with like this art studio like that, with able kind of have a group of people that you're all kind of prop each other up and support.
Oh, it's awesome.
Sort of
I've been part of this space for Jesus, I don't know now. I joined, I think 2006. I think I joined. So it's been a long haul. And before that, I worked at home for about a good decade. And while I love working at home, I just love the environment here. You have different personalities, different talents.
I feel like
keeps you on your
less
toes.
distraction too. Yeah. Like when you're home, you always have something of your, that you could do.
That was the problem I was getting near the end of my tenure of working at home. Things would get more. I mean, in the early days, it was easy. There was no internet. You're just kind of knuckle down, do your thing. But near the end, you're like deep diving on, the websites. You're going down rabbit holes. You're deciding to like alphabetize your like bookshelf or something.
Yeah.
So, it was actually nice to just compartmentalize and have a space that's completely just work focused or creative focused. So when I go home, I chill out, watch movies, whatever. But when I'm here, I'm drawing or doing anything else that's related to, making ends meet and keeping things creative.
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that. It gets to a point that because like I work from home mostly too, and you're working, like my gym is kind of here now too, since the gyms are closed. So it's like I don't leave. I just it's like you work, you go to the gym, you eat, you sleep. It's all in one building, and it gets to be a bit claustrophobic after time moves on. It's like you look forward to going to the grocery store just to like get out of your
that's it, right? Like we even started building a gym here just so we can have somewhere to work out.
Good idea.
At least there's a 20-minute walk between my place and the studio, so I can at least enjoy the weather, kind of have a moment outside, then come here, and it's
awesome.
It's a nice separation for sure.
So, where are you from originally?
I'm from the suburbs of Toronto originally. My parents are both immigrants.
Okay.
They met here, but my father's from Spain, my mother's from Poland. And
that was quite the combo.
Yeah. yeah. Half Spick, half Pollock, I used to say, just like,
Best of both worlds.
Yeah. And, but yeah, so they immigrated. I mean, they met here, and, but I'm pretty much Canadian, born and raised in the suburbs and countryside of the city. But I've been down in Toronto probably longer than I've been anywhere else in Ontario.
No, so how did they meet? Like, where was?
Just like a cultural event. The city they were in, where they met, would have like, I'm not sure if the East Coast has anything like that. Like, it's like a cultural fiesta event every year where they have all these like different pavilions with different like ethnicities. So you have like the Jamaican pavilion, the Polish pavilion, the Italian pavilion. So you go around and just go to these different pavilions and dance and drink and eat food and just immerse yourself into the cultures of so they were just two single people partying.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
and
cool
just met up at one of these pavilions, right? So and as the rest, they say is history, kind of.
Oh, fantastic. So childhood for you was in Toronto in the
No, it was still in the countryside. I lived on a farm for a bit. I like I said, the suburbs as well. So we moved around a lot. But for the most part, I moved to Toronto back in, must have been 97, 98, around there somewhere. I was just kind of sick of the small town, not suburbs, basically. And I was like,
how old were you then?
24, I think, maybe 25. And I basically just wanted to change the scenery, wanted to kind of engage in more of a creative community, because where I lived, it was not much was happening. There was some artists there, but especially as someone who wanted to get into comics or illustration and that sort of thing, like, even though I was working while I was there, but all my clients were either in the States or in Europe. So
was it comic work that you were doing, or design work, or?
I was doing mostly at that time, excuse me. I was doing mostly RPG illustration.
Cool.
Yeah. So
how did you get hooked up with that?
I had a buddy when I was in college. I kind of really didn't know what I wanted to do. I loved comics. I loved different things, but I never considered it a career. So when I went to college, I met a lot of great people who were already working professionals. Like, I was in a weird year where maybe a good half of my year, like half of us were like direct from high school, while the other half was either university students wanting a more robust education, or working professionals kind of coming back to brush up their skill sets. So one of the guys I met was a fellow by the name of Larry McDougall, and he does these days. He does a lot of fantasy artwork, painting, and he suggests, he's like, hey, your style would be a great fit for RPG illustration. I work for this company. I think you'd be a great fit for it. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so when I graduated, I just sent the portfolio amongst to a few other places as well. And the guy wrote back, said, love your stuff. Let's get you working. So I was like, okay. And he
So
pretty much, pardon?
What was that school, like an art school or?
I went to Sheridan
Okay.
for illustration was the program. And at the time, it was a very, I mean, I'm not familiar with how it is now. It's more of a university-based program now, but back then it was more of a college-based program. So very trades-oriented, very hands-on. I learned a lot quickly. And so when I graduated, I was just like eager to work. And yeah, so the guy hired me up, and I pretty much worked week in and week out for him for almost 2 to 3 years straight. Like, he kept me busy. And
wow.
And then after about 2 to 3 years, I just started to expand my portfolio, looking for different, not that I didn't want to work for him, but I just wanted to kind of mix it up and do different topics.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a lot of static art, right? You're probably not doing a lot of action stuff, are you? Is it mainly just character design?
No, it was a lot of action art.
Oh, really? Cool.
A lot of fun scenes. It's like the worlds I was drawing, it was a lot of fantasy meets like Mad Max meets like Star Wars. It was like a mashup of everything. So
was it like Riffs or one of those sort of books?
Exactly, Riffs.
Oh, it was Riffs. Cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. I may have some of your books then.
Yeah, I worked on a good probably dozen or more world books.
Wow. It was right around that time period. When I was a kid, I started collecting those because I love the art. I never actually learned how to play. I just like they're used bookstores, and I would just find them and buy as many as I could for the art. Yeah, same with the Turtles ones. They made
the same company made them. I worked on Turtles as well.
Oh, did you? Which ones?
Yeah. It wasn't the direct Turtles. It was one of the After the Bomb.
Yeah, those are the ones. That's hilarious. I could literally go into my library and pull out like 7 of them. I have like the Australian one,
I worked on that one. Yeah,
the Roadhogs one. Man, I'm definitely gonna bust those open and take a look for you now.
That's funny.
I used to love them just for the art because I was a big Turtles, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioned that at conventions. They were like, "Yeah, I never played, but the reading and the art was so much fun to get into."
Mm-hmm. It kind of makes you want to give it a go.
I had a lot of fun drawing
it. Like just dust it off and try it. I don't know. It seems like it'd be fun.
Why not? I mean, it's an RPG. Why not? Perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I have I think that they're all from the Turtle source books, which I have as well. But that's really cool that you worked on those. That's a small world.
No, it was and the guy Kevin Sambida, who runs the company and created all the games and stuff like that. He was just fantastic to work for. He was also an artist himself, so he, was great for pointers. Was fantastic to kind of just get an insight into a life as a professional artist, get some good business sense under my feet, and just draw, and basically get better with every book I did. Right, it came to the point where he gave me so much freedom that he would just like draw stuff. We'll write around it, and I was like, wicked. It was so much fun, But after 8 or 9 years of that, you're kind of like, I don't want to draw wizards anymore. I want to draw something different. So you switch gears and you draw something else. You work for other people.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What a great first step on a journey.
It was fantastic. I was spoiled with my first step.
I was gonna say, like most people I talk to that are artists are like Marco, right? Marco Rudy.
Marco Rudy,
yeah. Because I think he talked about you when we had our discussion, but. Did you help him get involved in comics?
I don't think I helped him get involved. I backed him on his visa application, and the same community of people,
right? In
Toronto. We saw each other, but
Yeah, he mentioned you sort of help when he was getting going. So, but yeah, no, that's super cool because him and some other people I talked to the first few years are just like a real struggle or slog to find real work, or anything that's like a legitimate project and not somebody's, harebrained.
Yeah, no, I was lucky. I mean, maybe if I tried to get into comics, it would have been a different story. But because I got into, I took a year, I fucked off for a while and just partied and had fun after I graduated. And I was like, okay, time to knuckle down, do some work. I literally sent out 5 portfolios, 1 bit, and within a month, I was working full time. Without any breaks.
Wow.
And I'd probably be in this aside from holidays I've taken, I've probably been about the same since. But I think because like I tried to get into comics a few times with no luck. People were like, you're not very good, or we don't have anything that fits you, is your fit or whatever it is. So
was that just like going to conventions or like sending in the packages?
Yeah, I send to conventions, or I get like, we love your work, but we have nothing for you. So because I didn't really care enough, and then I would get offers for these, weird podunk little jobs where they're like, we can't pay you, but
exposure.
We love exposure. I'm like, I got full-time work over here doing RPGs and sci-fi illustration. So I just kept busy in that. So I wanted to make the shift over to other things. And it just, I transitioned to children's books for a while, did magazine advertising illustration, and then always did comics on the side for fun for myself. But eventually I, one or two jobs come in because you met somebody at a convention or whatever it might be, and suddenly you're doing one comic for Marvel, another one for DC, and it kind of starts rolling over.
What was the first sort of hit of those? Like, what was the first major
the first job, or
like one of the ones that was sort of the one that got you in the door, really, with those sort of.
It was weird because I did a bunch of. I kind of did a lot of single. Like I tried different avenues to get in, so I did a lot of single issues with great writers. All the jobs came up because I'd met great people at conventions. So like Scotty Young wanted me to work on an issue of Deadpool, because he was writing it it was his first writing job, and he wanted me to draw it. Another one was Catherine Nimmonen wanted me to draw Captain America and the First 13, which is the script she did.
I remember that.
And then B. Clay Moore was one of my first jobs at DC Comics doing Wildcat for JSA. But they were like, it was funny because I get these calls from these editors. They're like, we don't know who you are, but these writers are recommending you. So do you want to do this job? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'd hand in the work.
Yeah.
And every editor loved what I did, but it never really spiraled into bigger jobs. It just kind of was a one and done. And then I also inked some other artists on some books. And
do you feel like
it was very strange? And
I was going to say, do you feel like it's sort of like in the way that like you kind of got in with some of the writers and they wanted you involved in the project, said that those publishers just have their go-to people, and if you're not one of them, it's pretty tough to get into that sort of way?
I mean, having worked in the industry for a while now, people like working with people they know or they have certain relationships they like to kind of foster. So yeah, you'll see a lot of editors calling a lot of the same people all the time, right? Or they want to discover somebody or whatever. But yeah, it's also, it was funny too, because I was never the artist I never really jumped through hoops a lot to try to impress anybody. So like I go to like San Diego Comic-Con with a portfolio of art from a graphic novel I did for Riffs, for example. But the editor would be like, well, we don't know if you can draw Spider-Man. And I'm like, if I can draw this, I can draw Spider-Man. I'm not going to, and I just never wanted, I guess I never wanted it enough to go out of my way to draw Spider-Man just to show them I can draw Spider-Man.
What an arbitrary reason. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure if you can draw this, you can draw Spider-Man,
Things might have changed. Things have probably changed since. Like, I think art directors aren't as persnickety when it comes to that. But back when I was trying to break in, this would have been like 99, 97, 2002, around there somewhere. And so I was just like, whatever. So the first big book, I got recommended to audition for Tale of Sand.
Right.
And at that time, when I was working before Tale of Sand, I'd done like a couple of those one-offs I just mentioned, to no other avail to other work. And then I was still working on some web comics I was of my own, and just freelancing as an artist. And it wasn't till that company came along and said, hey, do you want to audition for Tale of Sand? So I was like, yeah, sure, okay. I like the script. I'll do one audition page just to show you how I would interpret. And out of the 10 people that submitted, the company liked mine the best, so it worked out. And then after that happened, after you get that big graphic novel out, you get some Eisner noms and awards, and then suddenly X-Men's calling, going, "Hey, you want to work for Marvel?" And I'm like, I've been trying to work for Marvel for 5 years, but no one's answering my calls. But now,
now we care.
Yeah, so it's funny how that works.
Yeah. So when you did the Tales for the Jim Henson project, were you working with like Henson Studios and his estate and that sort of thing as well, or is that just here's a script for something he was going to do what you want with it?
To a degree, I was working like Archaia was the publisher, who's now being bought out by Boom, and I worked up a deal with the Henson company, and they were found this elusive, missing, lost screenplay, and I was given the the freedom to kind of. They asked me if I wanted a writer, and I was like, no, I'll adapt it directly, and I went to it, and they hooked me up with the Henson company archivist.
Oh, cool.
A lady by the name of Karen Falk, who's based in New York. And she would supply me with all kinds of like material, DVDs full of old like college test reels that Jim would do, and
so you could see some of like his design work,
like
other things that didn't get used.
This was all the stuff like it was funny because up until that point I knew Jim Henson as the guy who did Muppets, as the guy who did Dark Crystal, and that sort of thing. And I never realized the stuff he did beforehand, so it was a really interesting journey to discover what the struggles he went through as an artist, trying to get people to get any sort of interest in the Muppets, do his projects, how he experimented with music and animation. So like Karen was great. She like gave me all these like I said, DVDs and images from this time period I didn't know existed of Henson's life. I mean, obviously amazing. You assume he went to school or whatever, but you don't really think about it, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. You don't think about, like, it's funny because when you were talking, for some reason it reminded me of being John Malkovich, like, have you seen that? So when he's like, he comes in as Malkovich and he's like, they're like, you want to give up this film career and just work with puppets? And he's like, yes, and then and how ridiculous he seems, but you're like, you think about everything we know about that basically in the mainstream is all because of Henson. Like literally, if it wasn't for him, puppets would probably not be in any way would probably not be anywhere in the public idiom to the level.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Muppets specifically, but Sesame Street still and Fraggle Rock and all that stuff. Like, it's really like
his footprint is amazing.
Yeah, he's definitely a legend.
No, so it was great to just see this facet of the man and just see his struggles, and then kind of in a John Malkovich kind of way, immerse myself in his headspace of the era when he wrote this script. And then on top of that, I was lucky enough to meet his daughter, Lisa Henson, who was running the company. So I flew out to LA a couple times to hang out.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I went to dinner with her, and she'd be telling me about their trips to, like they would go on family camping trips to the desert and all this kind of stuff. And she told me about the colors and the kind of music her dad liked and so it really kind of gave me a really nice immersion into his life back then through other people's eyes and the work he was doing, and it kind of really informed how I approached the book.
Oh, that's so cool. So like, I never talked to anyone that adapted something in that way. I get like Troy Little. I talked to him about his work on the Fear and Loathing adaptation, but I don't believe he actually got to like hang out with like Hunter S. Thompson's family. Like, it's really cool that you got to.
Yeah, they were super great.
Yeah, listen to that and get the music and all the insight. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. They're super welcoming and super helpful, and they were super happy with the final product too. So, which was a nice plus.
Oh, that's fantastic. Very cool.
Yeah.
So was X-Men the next one since the phone rang from them after that?
I think I got a call. I got approached at a convention in Toronto, actually. Marvel at the time was still doing Toronto shows. And that would have been maybe a year or 8 months after Tale of Sand. Because Tale of Sand was released in 2011, I believe, end of 2011. And I did X-Men by end of summer or fall 2012. But in between the two was the adaptation I did of John Carter of Mars.
Right. Yes.
So the Princess of Mars, no, Gods of Mars, the second book in the series, and I worked with Sam Humphries on that. He did like a rough like Marvel style like 1 or 2 paragraph breakdown per issue, and because I'd read the books already, I kind of knew what the content was, so I just pretty much drew it out Marvel style, and then he went in and dialogued and lettered it, or sorry, wrote it afterwards.
Oh, really?
Cool. Yeah. So to this day, I never knew what he wrote because I've never actually read the comic. I just I drew it, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. My part's done, which is kind of hilarious. I just treated it like a silent movie. I was like, I'm just gonna make it work, and
Well, it's funny because I'm reading that True Believer biography of Stan Lee right now, and have you read it or you're aware of it?
Is that the one?
The one that just came out. That's like.
Oh no, I want to check that one out. So I read the Marvel Untold story, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, this one is.
I heard this one's a little bit more.
It's pretty rough on old Stan.
Yeah.
But like what I tell people that it's certainly pretty rough on him. But I think like everything they say, they have stuff to back it up. It's not just like a hatchet job. It's like there's this is what this person said or that person said. But it sounds like a lot of the olden days was basically just that. Like Kirby would do that, what you do, and then then Stan would come in and put in some and
walk off. I heard even I think Kirby would even put like little notes in the margins of his own story ideas. Yeah. And then Stan would either ignore them or incorporate them.
Yeah. But it's very interesting book. I really like it. It certainly kind of surmises that Stan Lee's greatest creation was sort of Stan Lee.
I could totally see that. Yeah.
Basically making himself a barker for Marvel, and it kind of works. But it's very interesting. I would recommend it for sure.
Oh, cool. No, I've been actually waiting for that, so I didn't know it was out already. So
Abe. Actually, it's right here. Abe Riesland, I think the guy wrote.
Yeah, it's got like a black and white cover, I think, or something. Yeah. I want to check that out.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Nice.
But very cool. Okay, so all right, so then Warlord of Mars, and then
Warlord. Then I did X-Men with Jason Aaron.
Yes, I do have that collection. I love Jason Aaron's writing.
He was awesome, and they just asked me if I wanted to do like an arc. I guess Jason had requested me, or that's what they told me. I'm not sure if that's
really
or not, but I don't know.
No, that's really cool. No, of course.
Like I was a fan of his work on
Scalp.
What was the I read Scalp, but the first thing I read of his was I'm trying to remember the title now, I'm blanking. The War Book.
Oh, the other side?
The other side, yeah, with Cameron Stewart. And quite love that. So I was familiar with a lot of his work, and but I wasn't reading any of the superhero work at the time because I was more into like the Vertigo imprint and a lot of Dark Horse stuff at the time. But it was great when I was invited in to do that. I ended up reading all the issues leading up to mine and fell in love with what he was doing because it had very much like a Claremont vibe, like the old Uncanny days, where they felt like a family. They were, actually, little problems would surface between the characters and whatever. So I really, really enjoyed that run. I always wish I'd done another one, but you do what comes across your table, basically.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I've always been a fan of his work. I actually came across, I think at one time at Strange Adventures, they had an issue of, it was like a one-off issue of Friday the 13th he did. It was just it was just like a story about it was like another little kid that's kind of deformed, that's getting made fun of at camp. Jason slaughters everybody else around him and basically spares him because he reminds him of himself. And this kid just sort of follows Jason through the woods while he's murdering other people. And it's kind of like, it's sort of like a kind of Frankenstein-esque story, I guess. Like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but this kid sort of learning to stick up for himself through Jason, which is kind of crazy, but it was a really good story. I was like, man, I wish this was one of the movies. Like, this would be a great,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jason's has the love for horror, so I could see him, just doing that off the cuff because he just wants to get out of the system or loves the property or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, no, he's his work. I've always been a big fan of. That's really cool. You got to work with him, and that he requested you specifically.
Yeah, he was great too. He's like, "What do you want to draw?" Well, we're going to the Savage Land, but I haven't nailed everything down yet. So He's like, "You good with robots and dinosaurs?" I'm like, "Love it," So,
I'd love to see the artist though be like, "Nah, I don't really like robots."
Yes.
Like, "Nah, don't write that. You're better than that,
it's a
Jason."
lot of work.
Yeah. Can you make him something else, something easier? Rock monsters, maybe? I don't know.
So no, it was a lot of fun. And then after that, I believe I did. Geez, what was after that actually? Kind of like jump around. I'm blanking on what order things came in.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. But yeah, there was because soon afterwards, I know I did Hawkeye, but there was something between the two.
You're Jeff Lemire's Hawkeye, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Following up David Aja, and that's what I did. I believe I did Spider-Man Learning to Crawl. I believe might have been the
6-part, like the 5.1.
Yeah, with Dan Slott.
Yeah, what was he like to work with? I'm a big fan of his work as well.
It was actually a lot of fun. I mean, the project had changed a little bit because the editorial changed between when I got invited and when I executed the project. But I still had a great time on it.
Do you find that happens a lot in a way that, like, from the initial idea to the project to like editorial's involvement, that things change drastically? Because I'm learning more and more as I do these sort of interviews and also like reading that book, but how much editorial really changes things sometimes, like drastically.
They love to put their fingers into, So
sometimes it's for really arbitrary reasons, like I think it was Ed Brisson was mentioning how he had projects working with certain characters and they're like, oh no, you can't use like Constrictor because we're going to use him in something else down the line, which they don't actually end up using him in. So it's like it was a moot point to begin with, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's weird because I've had both wonderful experiences with editorial and other times just frustrating to no end experiences. Like Learning to Crawl it went okay. Like I was quite happy with how the project came together, but the editor changed because I'm blanking on the original editor's name. He works at the Marvel Animation now.
Oh, cool.
And he was like one of the guys behind the David Aja Hawkeye. So he was on the more experimental side. Like he liked to push things. And then
that sounds like to good avail for him.
Pardon?
Sounds like to good avail for him.
Yeah.
Like that series was huge.
No, exactly. He gave them free reign to experiment. And I was sold on it because I was like, this was a story about Spider-Man between the panels of the original issues. We're going to expand on it. And I was like, oh, great. And I was like, can I do it like in a Ditko style? I want to kind of riff off Ditko. And we'll keep it all flat color. And he's like, love it. And then the editorial changed. And suddenly the vision became, no, you can't use flat color. That doesn't happen. We need more action, more swinging, more like... Because people like swinging. Can you make Spider-Man swing towards you? And I'm just like,
wow.
So I was just fighting tooth and nail the whole way.
Yeah.
But Dan was great to work with. He was awesome. He wrote very loose scripts, allowing me to play a lot. Like he never really broke down panels. I just kind of would break it down from what he had.
I assume that's your preferred method. Like,
I do love it, to be honest with you. I often feel more constrained by panels, but I can work either way, to be honest. But I do love the freedom of just breaking things down how I see fit.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, as far as a marriage with a writer goes and an artist, I feel like that's probably a pretty good one. I mean, essentially writing out everything that happens and what angle you want. Because I've seen lots of evidence for either. One will be like the most complicated. Reading these scripts, and some are like I remember reading old Frank Miller scripts where it's just like a page.
Oh God,
happens on the
crazy.
page. Like.
But I've also met artists who don't like working Marvel style. Like I've met artists who like they want that structure, so they know what they have to draw us, right? So it just varies. But I do love the freedom of it, and the same thing happened on Hawkeye as well, where I was just constantly being told like, no, don't do this, don't do that. And then I was like, why did you hire me if that's
what I wonder. Like it's like
you don't
hire an artist.
You don't want me to do this stylistic choice, but that's like you hired me to bring something new and interesting and experiment. So
Well, especially in a book that was built on that. Like, that book,
that's right, right?
Like everything they'd done before that was all experimental, different, certainly stuff that I hadn't seen in comics before in the way they were depicting things. So like you think they would keep that going. It always boggles my mind when you get to that sort of stuff, because like if you see art you really love and you want that artist to do you a painting, if you like you don't hire them and then stand over their shoulder the whole time and be like, paint more green in that tree and more blue. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane.
I think you're getting it wrong. Can you like?
Right? I love the just more swinging. People like seeing them swing.
Oh, dude, I'm not even exaggerating. That was the line I got, and I'm like, no, we're not.
It's like 70 years of comics of him swinging. Like, we've seen a lot of it. Like, I don't think anyone's heading in or writing the editorial to the bullpen like, hey, look, I just don't see enough swinging in Spider-Man.
They're throwing it in the trash. They're like, where the hell's the swinging? God damn it! But
that's nuts, crazy.
Yeah. So, So then, just like, and then just a couple of other projects through Marvel at that time, kind of. I guess I did the Nova run with Jeff Loveness, where I co-wrote.
Yes,
and that was
which is a great series. Yeah, that was the one that introduced the Sam Alexander one, right?
Yeah. Well, it had Sam was already introduced, like I think a couple of volumes prior.
Oh, right. It was the third. Yeah, right.
But we were bringing back Rich Rider.
Right. Yes.
And so it was a lot of fun, like getting to co-write. And that's kind of funny. Once you start co-writing and you see what's actually happening behind the curtain, you're like, they don't know what they're doing. Like, it's just like, throwing things to the wall. We had like things plotted out. We had great story ideas. And then, like you said, certain characters, they'd be like, no, can't touch them. Like, they wanted me to put Thanos on the cover of #1 to make it more like appealing. And I'm like, well, can we use Thanos? Because I don't want to put a character on the cover we can't. Like,
yeah, he's not in the book. Yeah.
He's like, well, he's related to Rich Rider because the gemstones and stuff, the Infinity Stones. And I'm like,
well, they were trapped together in the Cancerverse, or
and they were trapped together. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And then they're like, no, you can't use them though. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then like I randomly say I want to use Death's Head. I was like, I want to use Death's Head. They're like, who's that? I'm like, this guy from like the British Marvel era.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you can use him. I'm like, all right, this is great. So yeah, it's just hilarious. I had a lot of fun on that, and unfortunately, we were cut short. Like we had planned a 12 or 14 issue run with our storyline, and by issue 5 or at issue 6, they were going to cancel us.
Oh wow!
And then our editor was awesome because he actually fought to get us one more issue to at least wrap up the storyline.
Yeah,
that we were doing, so it actually looked like a complete, thing.
Well, that's a great gift, because then it's like for a collected edition or something, it's all there, right? Like you can.
Well, yeah, you don't like this just truncated story that is like you're like it's over. Like, and the sad part was we were getting a lot of great fan mail for that book where people were like loving it. They were telling us it was their favorite comic at the time.
It was a fun adventure space thing. Like I love that part of Marvel, Cosmic Marvel, which I feel like they don't pay a lot of attention to. Jim Starlin is like one of my, if I like the Mount Rushmore of comic writers.
When I first I read the first Infinity Gauntlet when it came out. I love that stuff. I loved when Marvel also did things like Micronauts and
I actually just finished my entire run of that. I was trying to. I had like 3 issues left, and I broke down and bought them off.
Oh, nice!
Some company somewhere, because there's a comic store in my town that was closing, and they had a bin that had most of them in it for like $1 or something. So I was like, I've always wanted to read this. And the guy that wrote the second series, the New Voyages or whatever. I'm blanking on his name, but he wrote a comic that I was a huge fan of called Strike Force Morituri.
Oh, I remember Strike Force.
And like it was such a cool concept. That was like Marvel's never done anything like it really since.
Yeah, that was their Epic line, wasn't it?
I think so. Peter Gillis. Peter Gillis. That's his name. Yeah. And it was just such a really cool kind of concept. So I kind of dove deep into it. So yeah, it's a great series.
Yeah, no, I think I have a whole run of it somewhere in one of my long. It's one of the few I've kept out of my favorites. But it was funny because I remember pitching around the time, this must have been 2012 or 2013. I was doing a show, and this is after I did X-Men already, but before I think I did Spider-Man. I was pitching Starjammers to
cool.
a Starjammer series to Marvel.
Corsair and the whole group.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to keep it classic.
Yeah, of course.
What I mean? And
that was always such a fun part of the old. Was that who introduced them? Was it Claremont?
Yeah, Claremont. Yeah. Right. And I remember the editor going, "No one really likes Marvel sci-fi." This is before the Guardians movie came out, before everything exploded. You know what I mean? And they were like, "No." And then years later, I think a year or two later, I get a shout to do. They're like, "Hey, we're thinking of doing a." This was after they brought back the original X-Men through time travel, and they were going to do
Bendis did, yeah.
Yeah, they were going to do that series with Cyclops and his dad, because Corsair came back from the dead or something. They went on a father-son journey, and they called me up to work on it. But I after talking to the writer had no interest.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to change all the characters, like pull out all the originals, just put let's see who we could bring in, like Iron Man. And I'm like, what? No. And so I just kind of left the project, and then I think it ended up falling into the hands of I think Rucka ended up doing the run. I can't remember who the artist was.
It's funny how like they almost want to it's like they want to cash in on nostalgia by bringing back these old properties, but they don't want to do it enough. They want to water it down enough that it's not unrecognizable from what it was. It really lately has been reminding me of like back in the 90s when they put out like a new Darkhawk comic, and every issue would be another guest star because they don't feel like Darkhawk's enough on his own. So he needs Spider-Man, Knight, and Punisher, then Ghost Rider, then everybody, like every issue is just a new guest star. It's like, bring back Guardians and for some reason throw the Thing and Iron Man in it. It's like, like what? Like it's weird.
Yeah, they need to put the ace characters in there just to make it sellable. And I'm like, well, you've had other creators prove that you don't need to do that.
For sure. Like
good writing and give it time.
The Guardians run from Annihilation that Abnett made, that run with Groot and Rocket Raccoon and all that, like that. Yeah. There's a reason it was popular enough to make a movie, like because it was,
right?
So
yeah. But I feel like they don't take the time, or for a while they may be changing, but I don't know. Like for a while there was like if it didn't hit in 3 or 4 issues, it's like, no, sorry, bye.
Yeah, it does feel that way. That if it's not a smash success from the get-go, it doesn't get a chance to find its legs.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
There were a lot of series that if that had been the case back in the day, they would have been canned. But they gave them 3 or 4, 9, 10 issues, and then it finds its audience and it grows and it becomes like a smash sensation or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Like if you look at whatever the graphic novel collections they put out every year are, there's the ones that are always ones, and some of them are pretty obscure stuff that you're like, big series is that they got to go, and it's just you just got to take a chance on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Yeah. So beyond that, was it? I know you did some work at Alpha Flight.
Oh yeah, that was a one-off with.
I think I have it right here. Actually, a friend of mine gave it to me, or is this just one of the covers you've done?
Those are Trudeau. Oh, that's just the cover. Yeah,
that's cover. Right?
Yeah. I got called up to do that one by the editor. And,
cool. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. No, but I did like a 5-pager with Chip Zdarsky when we put Trudeau on the cover.
Right.
Yeah. That's perhaps the most press I've ever received for any of my work ever in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I had
really?
I had like CNN calling me for interviews, the BBC, and I'm just like, what is going on here?
Because of a Trudeau
just
cover.
Because I drew the Prime Minister on the cover.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun, but yeah, it was just hilarious. I was like a media just tornado. yeah. But it was fun to work. I love Alpha Flight. I would love to launch an Alpha Flight series, but nothing ever has come across my table, and all the things I've ever seen them do with Alpha Flight,
Yeah, now they
have disinterested me altogether.
Yeah, and now they're like part of Ewing's horror Hulk thing, aren't they? Aren't they? Like some of the, I
no
think,
clue.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Sasquatch and Puck maybe.
Oh,
They're
really?
doing like a spin-off series with like some of the characters that have been tied up in that story that are
Okay.
hunting Hulks or something, or it's some kind of a spin-off thing. I can't remember what it's called, but it's something related to that. So yeah, it just never seems like they can just let the Guardians be America or Canada's Avengers and just leave it at that. They always got to like,
they got to fudge it. They became like space operatives at one point. And I'm like, what?
And they call them a mega flight, and they're like, they're like guarding us against aliens. Like, can't we just make some villains that Canada can fight? And I think there's enough Canadians that a standalone comic that's just kind of tailored for Canadians would work, right? Like, why not?
So I mean, I remember when I was reading the other Marvel, the Marvel Untold. They were going on about how Alpha Flight for a while was like the second highest selling book, if not the highest selling book at one point.
When Byrne was doing it? Because like I'm a big John Byrne fan as well, old John Byrne stuff. I haven't read much of his newer stuff, but and that stuff was great. What like it's crazy the books back then that were doing so well. Like Alpha Flight would have been that high in their list. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like,
and then they're killed off in the Avengers and then brought back in another comic, it's just
it's just a shit show.
I know. It's funny though, even just talking about, because I do like the on the podcast, I have every few episodes I do an interview like with you. However, most normal episodes I just go through the history of comic book characters that are kind of relevant now because they're popping up in just their comic history. If they pop up on a show or something, their story. And you go through so many of them and you realize how, like, with the decades of stories, like when you're talking about Corsair, I'm like, oh, right, I kind of forgot that Cyclops' dad is like a space pirate. It's weird that if comics go on so long that these characters just have such
come back and forth, right?
Yeah. And the great thing, which is what I love about Marvel, is it's all there. Like with DC, if you're trying to explain someone's story, you have to stop every new crisis to explain why their continuity is different. At least with Marvel, they try to keep.
So there's a reset button they hit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this time they redid it, and then that time they redid it. And it goes on and on. So, is there would Alpha Flight be a dream project for you, or is there?
I don't know if it's a dream project. I think it would be fun to work on, like maybe a mini series, like 6 or 12 issues or something like that.
Do you prefer that, like, to not get locked in for a really long time on one particular project, or?
Yeah, it's interesting because working on Stillwater right now is probably going to be one of the longest runs I've done on a comic, aside from Hawkeye, which was 11 issues. I usually find around issue like 4 or 5 or 6 of something I'm working on, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm done. I need to work on to the next thing, explore it. I think it might come from an area of I wasn't finding this with Nova, probably because I was involved with the writing, so I was helping steer the direction of the book rather than just a passenger kind of on the side and not really being involved with the evolution of the characters, kind of at the whim of the writer. So like I'd often work on something and be excited, but then kind of not agree with the direction, or maybe something in the story just kind of takes me out, or I'm just kind of, it's done. I'm tired. I'm like,
you're ready to move on. Yeah,
I want to move on. So, luckily with Stillwater, like Chip's keeping it kind of like really nice, and he's shifting gears a lot, so the pace is changing up every 6 issues or so.
Oh, cool! I'm actually that's the one of the books of his books I haven't had a chance to read yet. With lockdown, I can't get to my comic store.
Oh yeah.
So, but I do like his work a lot, and I'd be interested to see what he does with horror, because like nothing I've read of his before is really kind of tapped in.
Yeah, I would compare it. It's like a slow burn thriller, or like I would compare it to like Twin Peaks or something, or
which I'm a huge fan of. So
yeah,
I've actually started rewatching it during quarantine. I'm almost
nice.
I'm almost done. Season 2 gets to be a slog towards the end.
Yeah,
it gets to be a bit of a slog.
Yeah,
but I've kind of wanted to rewatch it all and then watch the new series, which I haven't watched yet. So I'm very close.
I haven't seen the new one either.
Yeah. So I'm almost done, and then it's the prequel movie, and then the new series. So
shit, nice.
Yeah. That's
So I would compare it to that, like that,
cool.
That kind of vibe, or
But he has a good, like, his writing style for that kind of a story with like a town or an area with a bunch of kooky characters and stuff that all kind of relate like that. He definitely lends himself to that, so that's really
Yeah,
cool.
he definitely fleshes out characters super well, and they all have like a unique voice and stuff. So, and the town is just that. You've got a nice variety of characters, and it's building. It's like it's funny because it's like it's kind of like this being this slow burn into the series, but now it's kind of accelerating into like into its death throes almost. So
Oh, cool.
it's exciting to see how it's coming together.
Oh, I'm excited to read it. It sounds really cool. Do you guys like when you find when working with someone like him? I guess your style with each writer is different, but like, do you have much knowledge about what's coming down the pipeline, or is it just like he tells you what's going on in this issue, or do you guys have summits where you discuss the whole project, or is
we have discussed the whole project a couple times, like what his vision is over the long haul. I don't really get involved with the writing of each issue or anything like that. Like he just kind of writes it, and but if he has ideas, if I have ideas, he said like feel free to let me know, like if there's something you'd like to explore or a direction or whatever it might be. And
yeah, I feel like talking to the writer or the artist about that would give you some insight, because there's probably things that you might not see because you're too close to it.
Yeah, I've done that a little bit, and like one thing we're doing for this Skybound X special issue in the summer came off of just something I suggested. Like I said, hey, why don't we do this? And he kind of turned it into something for like a 10-page short story.
No, awesome.
And yeah, so it's been great. But like, I mean, it's his story, and but I feel more along for the ride than I do with a Marvel story, because I'm less connected with a Marvel story, because they have their own overarching plans. They have their meetings every year where they decide where things are going.
I was going to ask you about that. Since you stepped a foot into the writing pool, and you mentioned how you kind of like the curtain was pulled back a bit and you saw more of that world, I'm guessing they keep those two worlds kind of separate.
Yeah, to a degree. I think if you're a big enough artist, they might bring you in a little bit, but for the most part, it's like they have the writer retreats. They go and they figure out.
Did you get to go to one of those when you were writing?
No. I wrote so briefly for them. And it was like a B-list or a C-list book. They were probably like, whatever.
I like how it's like the Five Timers Club in SNL or something. Where there's just like the super posh. They're all wearing these jackets,
Yeah, exactly.
When someone that's been doing it, like Bendis comes in, they like bow or they do something. You know what I mean? Someone that's written like 100 books or something.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
But yeah, it was it is what it is, anyways. But it's been fun to work on something that I'm a little bit more involved in, where the editorial and the writer actually are saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Whether it's cover design or story elements, or talking with the colorists about what they think about color, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a much more integrated collaborative effort at Skybound than I've ever had at Marvel or DC, where it's kind of like, I'm not saying I'm generalizing there a bit, because I've had some great input.
Oh, for sure.
On some projects at Marvel, and I've collaborated a lot with like a lot of great colorists and a lot of great writers. I've been very lucky, but I've always felt like a little bit of a separation between.
Well, I feel that way because that's sort of the beauty of when you get into a creator-owned book like this sort of stuff, because you get the freedom, and it's something you're building in that you're always going to be a part of. Because I feel like with Marvel, or DC even, if you create some cool new character, you get some cool new idea, if it gets put into their stuff, you're probably not going to see anything from that beyond whatever you're like Jim Starlin didn't even get an invite to like Avengers to watch like Thanos or
I've heard that from a lot of people. And I've had the same thing. I mean, I only created a couple of minor characters here and there, but I've never seen.
Yeah, but even like Brubaker, who like basically created the version of the Winter Soldier that everybody loves from TV, like he's not really getting anything from this new show or all the other stuff. And it's like, I read an interview with him recently where he sounded a little bitter about it. I don't blame him. Like if you,
I think I read the same thing where he's like, he kind of cringes a little bit. Like he's happy to see, kids dress up as Halloween, but it's like it hurts.
That's a cold comfort when you're watching them rake in millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly right. Like. Yeah, it's weird.
If it wasn't for him, Bucky would still be the Captain America's old sidekick that died in World War II. Like,
exactly, but they don't see that, and,
yeah.
that,
That's the big corporate world, I guess, and it's some the little people who kind of get stepped on, but it's so the dissonance between, or the disconnect between, like, literally the core thing that made this possible, and then how much they don't seem to give a shit about it
right
at all.
But
anyway, at least with the creator owned stuff, because there's so many cool books. Like, well, I always say recently about how it's a really cool time to be a comic fan or a nerd in general, because like literally all these projects and things, like if you would have told me 20 years ago Thanos like my favorite villain, I'd see him in a movie, I would have been like, you're crazy. You like Rocket Raccoon and Groot, like if I saw that was in a movie, that's insane.
Exactly.
But even like if you would have told me I get to see like, I'm a huge Jeff Lemire fan, so the Sweet Tooth trailer looks fucking
I saw that
amazing.
the other day and I was like, what?
I'm like, I love Joe Hill as well, and I was really let down by Lock and Key, so I was like I really, but I was seeing that trailer, and even though they got Will Forte in it, I was like, man, this looks so cool. Like, I'm super excited. So it seems like everybody's projects is, even like Jupiter's Legacy, which is coming on Netflix, like it seems like all these projects that probably would have just been comics and that's it, are now getting a shot at being a show or a series.
It's just this whole other avenue that now Hollywood has an opportunity to, like, prefab stories with storyboards and everything included.
It's amazing it took them this long to decide to figure that out. That's an interesting question, actually, since you're so kind of a foot in all aspects of the industry. Do you feel like that people are tailoring projects towards that now? Like that maybe
I think there definitely is. I'm not saying every project, but I definitely think there is a lot of tailoring to be, pitching things like, I could really see this as a film or a TV show. So I'll, like, if I've actually even had offers from companies going, this is a failed or like a languishing movie script that we can't get made. So we're going to do it as a comic book to get it made as a movie.
Yeah.
Because they want, like, to better sell the idea, to better sell the visuals or the concepts to Hollywood backers and producers. There's nothing like saying, hey, this comic sold X amount of copies. Here's all the storyboards. And it has a built-in audience that has bought it already. So they'll be eager to see it on the big screen, right?
Yeah. So there was a period when it seemed like Dynamite was doing a lot of that, like a lot of Kevin Smith treatments that never got picked up, like his Bionic Man and his Green Hornet and stuff like that. They're like, well, this isn't going to be a show or movie, but let's make it a comic.
Yeah.
But it did seem like when Mark Miller, like, it seemed like every comic he was putting out for a while were all just pilots, basically.
Oh, yeah. There'd be like 5-issue miniseries, like pilots.
And all the characters would be drawn to look like actors.
Yeah.
Like Wanted specifically was like Eminem and Halle Berry. And it was like, obviously everyone was drawn to look like what they would cast it into the show. So I mean, it worked out for him. He's got so many projects out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, was it like Netflix bought his whole world or something?
Oh, did they? The Miller World?
Yeah, I believe so. Like,
okay. So like the Kick-Ass, everything's
that's right. Because I think that's the whole premise. Because they were losing the Marvel stuff. So I believe they were like, we need to buy something with, like, a lot of these stories already built in place. So.
Really? Wow. Well, I mean, he has a lot of comics and a lot of miniseries that would lend to decent series and ideas. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, hey, power to him. He can pull it off, amazing. So,
yeah. I mean, if all my favorite comics become favorite Netflix shows, I'm okay with that too. So.
Yeah, right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. So,
for sure.
But yeah, so it's an interesting time, right? Like, you got a lot of nice options, like even from like just the amount of indie stuff out there from like creator owned. You have so many different things. Like it's been a long while since I've actually read any mainstream like DC or Marvel book. I'm usually focused more on something from Image or Dark Horse or one of those companies, right? So,
yeah, I've been kind of in that well as well. It seems like the amount of mainstream superhero comics I follow is Spider-Man's always been a massive. I've always been a massive fan, so that one always seems to stay. But a lot of the other ones just seem to dwindle out. I usually follow writers, but it seems like a lot of them go on to create, like the big writers go on to their own creative stuffs and then leave the
exactly right. Or they go on to write prose or go into television, exactly, whatever it might be, right? Become showrunners.
Yeah, that's another avenue too.
You know what I mean?
Cool. So when Stillwater's done, is there anything in the can, or is it still the?
I mean, Stillwater is not going to be done for a while. I mean, it's a long form story, but I am working. I'm always trying to work in other things just to keep the spice alive, if you will. So right now, it's Stillwater is the main thing. I do have a great a project I'm part of that's coming out later this year in the fall for Image. It hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not sure how much I can say.
Oh, no worries.
It's about the history of jazz.
Oh, cool.
And it's an amazing script. And I'm doing one of the volumes in the sequence of stories, and I'm so excited to get to it.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So I take it you're a jazz fan?
I am, yeah. So and I get to illustrate one of my favorite eras, which is great. So around the 40s and the 50s.
Oh, nice.
The rise of bebop and all that stuff. So, and beyond that, I'm just being with the studio here. We're embarking on a lot of creator-owned initiatives and self-publishing using Kickstarter. So I have like an old web comic that has been laying dormant for years that I want to finish the story on. So I'll be probably by the end of the year kickstarting that to get that out there in book form. And I'm also writing a graphic novel, which I hope to start illustrating next year.
Oh, fantastic.
So, so there's a lot of things on the go. There's always like little pieces and plate spinning. So it's a lot of fun. And,
oh, man, that's amazing.
I don't want to say too much because none of them have been announced yet, but when they are, I'll kind of scream it from the rooftops on social media.
I will definitely be sharing it and counting the laurels as well. This may be connected. Do you know David Cutler?
Yeah.
He used to be my roommate years ago.
Oh shit, that's hilarious. Yeah. Like I met him when I taught. I did one semester teaching where I taught inking.
Oh, right on.
At a local kind of comic book school.
Oh yeah, well he was doing that with is it Templeton School or is Templeton just teaching there?
He was teaching. I'm not sure. Templeton was teaching there,
right?
But he also taught afterwards privately. So I'm not sure. I know David when he was there was probably taking his course as well.
Yeah, I think it was after he left here. So
So I met a lot of great artists through that kind of circle of students and great people and talented people.
Well, I thought maybe the Toronto comic industry may be sort of incestuous. You guys probably know each other a little bit.
It's a tight community for the most part. It goes in waves. I find that over the past maybe 5 or 6 years, it's kind of quieted down. I'm not sure if that's the cost of living in Toronto is quite pricey.
Maybe it seems like a lot of people are moving out here.
So I know a lot of creators have gone out east or Hamilton, which is the cheaper city in Toronto.
It's like Brisson moved out here, and we were talking with that, and just about the market. And I had friends who live in Ottawa that just moved out here, and it's great. Like if you can work from home, which a lot of people are doing now, it's why you can buy like a beautiful mansion here for the amount it costs for like a 3-bedroom, tiny house.
Oh yeah,
downtown
for sure. Yeah,
Ottawa or Toronto or something.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Like I used to visit Darwin Cook at.
Oh, you knew Darwin. I was I wouldn't call him a friend. Like we just rubbed elbows at events that usually Cal was doing, but he was one of the sweetest, nicest people.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
Like he always treated me like a friend. I had some indie comics that I just printed myself, and he read them and he gave me lots of feedback, and he was really cool about them.
Awesome.
Like he took the time.
He was great. Like I was lucky enough when after a few years in Toronto, I was introduced to what they call the Superman Club, which was like a lunch club. That was held on College Street, which is like the little Italian district in Toronto. And it was Darwin Cook, Mike Cho, Jay Bone, Brian McLaughlin, and then you'd have a few other, like Jay Stevens would drop in every so often.
That's so cool.
And and Darwin was there. And it was kind of like Darwin and his posse, basically. And so I got introduced by a publisher, and the publisher ended up souring his relationship with everybody, but I stayed. And I got to know Darwin, got to know the whole crew, and it was great just to get insight from him, just hang out with and different things.
He was super cool.
Yeah, and then once he moved out east visiting, I was always like, I love this city, loved visiting, and I was like, if I could buy a place out here and just to like, I'm not ready yet. I love the big city, but
Oh yeah,
the vibe and the scenery and the lifestyle. I'm like, I could chill out here for a long time.
oh yeah. No, Halifax. I live in Truro, which is about an hour.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah,
oh, yeah. So, but Halifax, like I mean, not so much now, but every time there's something going on, it's only an hour away. Hop
yeah.
in. And always doing events and like going to cons or just going to movies or bands or anything like that. And there's always something on the go there. It's a cool.
No, it's a great.
Cool
like I spent like a week or at a time there, and I've always had a great time.
Yeah,
and I've actually been to Truro once I did a talk at the local college.
Oh, the NSCC.
I'm not sure. I think that might have been it.
Yeah, they have a graphic design course.
Yeah,
and animating kind of thing. Actually, I did a talk there once too, so that's fine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, probably different.
They were super great. They brought me in and they showed me around, and that was like one of the last times it's probably the second or the third last time I saw Darwin before he passed. Was I was there, and I was there for the talk, and I just went up to his place. And
I didn't even know he was really ill until it was really like it was done, basically.
Yeah, he kept it quiet, and a lot of the people that were close to him kept it quiet. So
yeah, well, it's not an easy thing to you don't need to make it a thing.
No,
I met him at Dave Sim when he did the Glamour Puss comic. He was doing like a final signing tour, and they did like a big event at a bar in Halifax where everybody dressed up like fashion people. And so me and my wife went and we hung out, and we just mainly just sat and talked with Darwin and Dave Howlett and Ben Jedry for most of the night. It was a blast.
Nice. I know those guys.
Yeah, it was a blast. And it was just he's just such a cool guy, and it's really neat to it's nice when you meet your heroes and they're cool people.
100%. Yeah.
Because I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm also a professional wrestler. So
okay.
Yeah, so I've met a lot of wrestlers over the years at conventions that have been disappointed.
Yeah.
But it's cool when you meet somebody that's actually a really nice and cool person. So you're like,
no, I totally agree. I've met people who, were my heroes, and you're kind of like a little bit disappointed sometimes. You're like, they're not that nice, or and then you meet somebody else and you maybe weren't their biggest fan, but they're like so amazing. You're like, oh fuck, I like you even more now because
yeah, exactly.
You're such a cool person.
And also just to hear him talk about names that were only ever just a word in a comic book. You don't know these people, but to hear someone that knows them personally talk about these summits and these events and what they're like, and it's just really neat.
No, totally agreed.
Yeah, no, he was, we're poor to have lost him for sure. He was,
100%.
Yeah.
No. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else that I covered all, or you see anything left?
I mean, I think so. I'm not too sure. I didn't make a list.
I honestly, I just like talking. Like, they go the best. I find when you just chat.
Just chill out and chat.
Yeah,
I think that covers a lot of the bases. I had no
agenda.
No agenda, really.
No.
Talk about the stuff. I mean, we have some great stuff coming out. Like I said, we have a Kickstarter with the studio coming out in about a week, and second arc of Stillwater is starting. I think this month as well. So a lot of great things. If people want to pay attention to what we're doing over here at the studio.
Absolutely, I'll definitely share what I see as it comes out.
Yeah, share the links, and we have a newsletter that comes out every a couple of weeks that focuses on what our talent, our crew is doing, but also talks about like other comic community things and whatever. So we're just trying to, in this time where everybody's kind of like separated, trying to kind of connect everybody a little bit more and
keep the fire burning.
Yeah, just keep the fire burning, do cool shit, and hopefully come out of this on top and have some fun shows again and different events, right?
Cool. Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll make it out this way again. Some
as soon as I can. You guys have a bubble. You're not letting anybody in right now.
Well, even that's actually tighter now. Cause it's funny because the cases here have always been low. They're at the highest now they ever have been. But it's like 150 a day, or 180 was today, which is a lot for us on a day.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
You look at everywhere else. I mean, our population's way smaller, but you look at everywhere else and it's like 3,000 or 4,000 a day.
Yeah.
But they just locked down. Like they don't really want people moving between communities, so I can't go to Halifax or or New Glasgow or Antigonish or anything like that.
Yeah,
And
so basically-
yeah, and they have small bubbles where like you're only now if you're in a 2-person house, which me and my wife are the only ones here. You know, you're allowed a bubble with another 2-person house, and that's pretty much it right now to go like hang out and do something. So it's getting a little insular at the moment. You can still go to work for the most part, and some non-essential stuff shut down. But
are all the I'm guessing all businesses are closed and everything like that?
Well, they non-essential ones, but a lot of them are still open with like door service pickup and stuff.
Oh yeah, okay,
So they've kind of figured some ways around some of the stuff that kept them closed the first time. So things are like I went and got a massage today, which I'm surprised I was allowed to do.
Oh shit, okay.
You know, so like I called them and was like, "Am I still having my appointment?" And they're like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't." Like, last time we did this, I didn't, but okay, whatever. Like I don't know. Somebody's figuring it out.
People just got to make a living. People are like running out of money. Things are going, you know. It's just,
you got to keep society going. It sucks that it's just what you got to do, but hopefully vaccines will catch up and we'll
hopefully, and everybody's kind of we can reopen. Hopefully by I don't know when, but hopefully soon.
I agree. But yeah, we'll definitely have to hook up when you're down this way again.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to, man. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Drop me a line.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for being on, Ramon.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It was great chatting with you, and talk soon again, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
Have a good one.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Man, what a fun conversation. I had a really good time talking to Ramon. I could have talked to him all night. Hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with one another down the line, have the drink we talked about, and talk some more. I learned a lot from the conversation. Hope you did too. And I'm very much looking forward to reading Stillwater. I love Zdarsky. I love Ramon's artwork. I think the combination of the two would be just stellar. And I know these conversations are a great way for us to get to know people related to the comic book industry on a local and international level. It's also a way for them to kind of promote their work and, a way for you to perhaps show your support. So get out there, maybe grab that book, grab, some other books by him. If you can, if you have the means and you want to. If you don't, just read some comics. Just grab something. Grab that comic on the table. Grab that graphic novel sitting on the shelf you haven't read yet. Just read some comics. It's a good day for it. Could be raining, could be sunny. If it's raining, read inside. If it's sunny, go sit in that hammock on that chair and get out in your balcony and just read, man. Get lost in another world and enjoy comics. But I can't thank Ramon enough for being on the show. Just floored still every day that I get to talk to cool comic book people in this show and that people are listening to it. And I really appreciate all the support that I've received in the last year since I started this and the stuff I continue to receive from other people. And so thank you. Tune in Monday on social media to find out who the subject of next week's show is, as I haven't determined who that will be yet. But it should be a fun one, regardless of whatever it is. But in the meantime, look out for each other, stay safe, and I will catch you next time.